The night sky was painted with fire, the battlefield stretched across the broken valley, and smoke rose like dark shadows reaching for the stars. Among the ruins, a single human soldier moved with steady steps. His armor was scratched, his body was tired, but his eyes still burned with focus. She watched him from the cover of shattered stone. Her world had fallen into chaos when the invaders came. Her people fought bravely, but their weapons broke against the strength of their enemies. She had almost given up, almost believed death would come. Then she saw him, the human. At first, she thought he was only another warrior passing through the wreckage. But when the enemy soldiers came rushing at him, she saw the truth. His strength was not like the others. His fists crushed steel. His movements were fast, precise. Every strike he made was filled with raw power. She felt her chest tighten as she realized she was staring at something forbidden. Her kind had always been warned. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable. They were not to be trusted. Yet she could not look away. The way he fought was different. There was no hesitation, no fear, even when blood ran from his arm. He kept moving forward. Each step sent a message in her heart, a message she was not supposed to hear. The enemy surrounded him, 5 against 1. Their blades shined in the dim light. She thought he would fall, but he did not. He fought with a roar that echoed across the ruins, a roar that made her shiver. For the first time in her life, she felt what true strength looked like. She pressed her hand against her chest. Her breath came fast. Why did she feel this way? He was human. She was not. Her people had forbidden such thoughts. Yet as she saw him break the last enemy's weapon and stand tall, she could not stop the whisper inside her. She craved that strength. The human paused for a moment. His eyes scanned the valley, searching for more threats. Then his gaze fell on her for a second. Their world stopped. She froze, caught between fear and desire. His eyes were not cold, not cruel. They were calm, steady, and filled with something she did not expect. He walked closer, step by step. She wanted to hide, to vanish, but her body betrayed her. She could not move. When he stopped only a few feet away, her heart pounded so loudly she thought he would hear it. "You are not safe here," he said. His voice was deep, steady, and carried no anger. "You must go before more come." She opened her mouth, but no words came. She was not supposed to speak to him, not supposed to even look at him for so long. Yet her lips moved. "Why do you fight for us?" she whispered. His eyes narrowed slightly. He glanced at the broken ruins, then at her. "Because it is right," he said simply. Then he turned his head sharply, hearing something in the distance. The ground trembled. More enemies were coming. He looked at her again. His voice was firm. "Hide, stay alive." Before she could reply, he was gone, running toward the new danger without hesitation. His figure disappeared into smoke and fire. Her hands trembled. Her breath shook. She had just witnessed something that would change her forever. When the night grew quiet again, she still stood frozen among the stones, replaying his words, his strength, his eyes. She knew she should erase this memory. She knew her people would call it weakness, but deep in her heart, a forbidden desire had already taken root. She craved the human strength again, not just for protection, not just for survival, but because something inside her had awakened, something that would not let her forget him, something that whispered to her in the silence of the night. Her world was no longer the same. The night had passed, but the memory of him did not fade. She sat by the dim light of the campfires, surrounded by her people. Yet she felt alone. Her mind replayed the moment again and again, the sight of the human soldier fighting like no other. His strength had burned itself into her heart. The elders spoke of rebuilding, of hiding, of survival. Their voices were sharp, their warnings clear. No one was to approach the human. No one was to speak to him. He was dangerous. They said he was a storm in the shape of a man. But she could not agree. For her, he was not a storm. He was a shield. He was fire and light in the middle of endless dark. She remembered the way he stood against 5 warriors at once. Remembered the roar that had made even the enemy falter. Her chest grew warm at the thought. That sound had shaken her, not with fear, but with longing. It had reminded her that strength was more than muscle and steel. Strength was spirit, and his spirit was unlike anything she had ever known. When she closed her eyes, she could still see his gaze, steady and calm. The way he had spoken, simple words, no pride, no lies, because it is right, he had said. Those words haunted her. Her people fought because they had no choice. They fought for survival. But he had fought because he believed that made him more than a warrior. It made him something greater. She tried to bury the thoughts, but they returned like waves against stone. Even in sleep, she dreamed of him, of his hands breaking enemy blades, of his eyes cutting through smoke. She awoke breathless, her pulse racing. She told herself it was wrong, that these feelings were forbidden, yet her heart ignored every warning. The days grew colder, and the enemy did not stop. Raids struck their villages, and more lives were lost. She fought alongside her kin, but her eyes always searched the horizon, searching for him, and when she saw him again, her heart leapt. He was at the edge of the battlefield, fighting with the same fury as before. She froze, caught between duty and desire. Her spear trembled in her hand as she watched him move. His strikes were precise, each one filled with power. He fought like a man carrying the weight of more than just his own life. And when his blade struck the ground, the earth seemed to shake. Her people noticed her hesitation. An elder shouted for her to focus. But she could not. She was caught in the memory of strength and the living proof of it before her eyes. She turned her face quickly, ashamed, but it was too late. The fire in her chest had grown. Later, when the battle was over, she slipped away from the others. Her steps carried her to the edge of the valley where he had stood. She touched the ground where his footprints remained. Her fingers pressed into the dirt as if she could still feel his presence. A whisper escaped her lips. Why do I crave this? In her world, desire was meant for her kind alone. To look at a human this way was betrayal. To want his strength was dangerous. Yet she could not stop. The more she resisted, the more it pulled at her. It was not just his power she longed for. It was the way he never faltered, the way his spirit refused to break. That night, she could not sleep. She stared at the stars, her heart restless. She thought of him moving through the fire and smoke, of his voice telling her to survive. She remembered the calm in his eyes, and she wondered what it would feel like to stand beside him, not as stranger and outcast, but as something closer. Her people would never allow it. The laws were clear. Humans were to be kept apart. Their blood was dangerous, their ways corrupting. But her soul had already been touched. No warning, no rule could erase the fire inside her. She whispered to herself in the silence, I will see him again. The words felt like a promise, like a dangerous seed taking root. She knew the risk. She knew the price. Yet she could not stop, for she craved the human strength again, and no power in her world could take that craving from her. The nights grew longer, and the battles grew harsher. Yet her thoughts did not belong to war or to her people. They belonged to him, the human. She tried to silence the longing inside her, but every memory of his strength only made it louder. Each day, she watched him from afar, her heart fighting a battle she could not win. The elders warned of spies and traitors. They told her clan that humans were only temporary allies, not to be trusted, but she knew in her soul that this one was different. He fought not for glory or greed, but for something purer. That was why she could not stay away. That was why she took the risk. One night, when the camp was quiet and the fires had burned low, she slipped away. Her steps were careful, her cloak wrapped tight around her form. The shadows swallowed her as she moved toward the edge of the valley. Her heart pounded with fear and desire. She knew what she was about to do was forbidden, but she could not turn back. She found him standing alone. His weapon rested against a broken wall, and he stared out at the horizon, as if the stars carried secrets only he could read. For a moment, she only watched him, the way his broad shoulders stood firm, the way his presence filled the silence with strength. When she finally stepped closer, the ground crunched beneath her feet. He turned at once, his hand brushing his blade. But when he saw her, he paused, his eyes narrowed in recognition. He did not speak. Not yet, he only waited. Her throat felt dry. Words refused to come. She had imagined this moment countless times, but now her courage trembled. Finally, she whispered, "You should not be here alone." His voice came low and calm. "And neither should you." He studied her for a moment, then asked, "Why did you come?" Her heart raced. She wanted to lie, to say she had only wandered by chance, but the truth burned too strongly inside her. "I had to see you," she admitted. Her words felt heavy, dangerous, yet freeing. He stepped closer, and the distance between them shrank. His eyes searched hers, as if trying to read her soul. "Why?" he asked. His tone was steady, but she could feel the storm beneath it. Her breath shook. She lowered her gaze. "Because I remember your strength," she confessed. Her voice was almost a whisper. "I remember how you fought, how you did not break." She lifted her eyes again. "And I crave it still." Silence fell between them. The night seemed to hold its breath. He did not mock her, did not turn away. Instead, he studied her with a quiet intensity, as if weighing every word. Every second felt like an eternity. Finally, he said, "You know this is dangerous." His tone was not harsh, but filled with warning. "Your people will not forgive this. They will not forgive you." She nodded slowly. "I know." Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. "But I cannot stop what I feel." His jaw tightened. He turned his gaze toward the distant stars again. "Feelings can be costly," he said. His words carried the weight of scars she could not see. Still, she dared to step closer. Her hand almost reached for his arm, but she stopped herself at the last moment. The urge burned through her, but she feared what it would mean. She whispered instead, "Even if it costs me everything, I cannot turn away." He looked at her again, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something more in his eyes, something unspoken, something he had kept hidden. "Then you are braver than I thought," he said quietly. Before she could reply, a noise cracked through the silence. Voices carried on the wind. Others were approaching. His eyes sharpened at once. He grabbed his weapon and stepped back. "Go," he ordered firmly. "If they find you here, they will know, and you will not be safe." Her chest ached. She wanted to stay, to speak more, to feel the strength she craved once more. But she knew he was right. With one last look, she turned and fled into the shadows. Her cloak billowed behind her as her heart hammered in her chest. When she reached her camp, no one knew where she had gone. No one knew the truth she now carried like fire inside her. She lay awake until dawn, replaying his voice, his gaze, his warning. She knew this secret could destroy her. Yet she also knew she would return to him again. Her desire had grown, no longer just memory, no longer just longing. It was alive now, alive in her heart and soul. The secret meeting had bound her fate to his, and no matter the danger, no matter the risk, she knew the truth. She craved the human strength again, and she would not stop until she felt it once more. Days passed, but the secret meeting lived inside her like fire. She tried to act normal among her people, but her eyes carried a hidden light. Her steps carried a restless energy. The others noticed. Whispers began. Some said she was haunted by the war. Others said she had been touched by something unseen, but none knew the truth. Inside, her heart was torn. She remembered his words, the warning in his voice, yet those same words only deepened her longing. If danger came with him, then danger was something she was willing to face. Her desire was not fading. It was growing stronger, pulling her toward him again. At the council fire, the elders spoke with sharp voices. They said the humans were only tools, temporary allies to win battles, not to be trusted beyond the fight. They warned that humans carried corruption in their blood, that their ways would poison the clan if allowed too close. She listened, her head bowed, but inside her chest her heart screamed in defiance. When night fell, she found herself wandering again. Her body wanted to move toward him, but she forced herself back. She sat beneath the stars, clutching her knees to her chest. Her breath shook as she whispered, "Why can I not escape this?" She had fought enemies without fear, but now she feared herself. Her people began to notice her distraction in battle. When enemies charged, she fought, but her eyes always searched for him. One elder called her name with anger after a clash. demanding her focus. She apologized, but guilt burned inside her. Not because she was distracted, but because she knew why. She wanted to see him again. She wanted his strength beside her. One evening, she overheard voices near the fire. Warriors whispered of her strange behavior. They said she carried secrets, that her spirit had been touched by something forbidden. The words cut deep, but she did not deny them, because in her heart she knew they were right. That night, when sleep should have come, she lay awake with her eyes open. Her mind replayed the memory of his gaze, the calm in his voice, the way he had looked at her without judgment. She pressed her hand to her chest, her pulse racing. She whispered, "I crave it still." The stars gave no answer, but her own soul did. Her desire was no longer silent. It was alive, fierce, a fire that could not be hidden. She dreamed of standing beside him, not as stranger and not as enemy, but as something closer. She dreamed of touching his hand, of feeling that unbreakable strength through her own skin. And when she woke, the dream clung to her like truth. The danger was clear. If her people discovered her secret, they would call her a traitor, they would exile her, or worse. Yet when she thought of living without him, of never seeing him again, that fate felt worse than any punishment. She began to wonder what he thought of her. Did he remember her words? Did he feel the same fire that consumed her? Or had he locked it away, silent and cold? She remembered the flicker she had seen in his eyes, that unspoken truth he had hidden, and she clung to it like a lifeline. One night, she walked alone to the edge of the valley. Her eyes scanned the shadows, searching for him. But he did not come. Her chest ached, and she fell to her knees in the dirt. "Why do I risk everything for you?" she whispered into the night. No answer came, only the wind carrying the scent of smoke. Her people would never understand. They would call it weakness, they would call it betrayal. But she knew it was not weakness. It was strength of a different kind, the strength to want, the strength to choose, even if that choice was forbidden. The next day, during battle, she caught sight of him again. His figure moved through the chaos. His blade struck like thunder, and his roar echoed like a storm. Her heart surged. Her lips parted without thought, whispering words no one else could hear. "I crave you still." She fought harder than ever, but not for her people, not for her clan. She fought because she wanted to reach him, to be near him. And when the fight ended, she stood breathless, her body trembling, her soul burning. By now, the truth was clear. Her desire was no longer a secret inside her. It was a force guiding her every step. It was forbidden, it was dangerous, but it was also unstoppable. She craved the human's strength again, and she knew she would not rest until she had it. No law, no warning, no punishment could put out the fire inside her heart. The battlefield grew colder with each passing day. Smoke never seemed to leave the sky, and the cries of war echoed through every valley. Yet for him, the human soldier, the greatest battle was not against enemies with blades. It was inside his heart. He felt her eyes on him in every fight. He felt the pull that tied them together. He tried to bury it, to tell himself she was only another ally. But he could not forget the night she had come to him in secret. He could not forget her trembling voice, her words of craving and desire. He had fought countless battles, faced death without fear, but the memory of her gaze left him shaken. It was a wound no armor could cover. When he closed his eyes, he saw her, her face in the firelight, her whisper echoing in his mind. She had risked everything to come to him, and that truth weighed heavy on him. He was human. She was not. Their worlds would never allow them to stand together. Yet his heart refused to turn cold. He told himself the right choice was distance. He told himself that her people would punish her if they discovered the truth. He should protect her by staying away. He should walk the harder path. But each time he saw her fight, each time he saw her spirit burn against the chaos, he knew he was lying to himself. One night, he sat alone sharpening his blade. The stars glimmered faintly through the smoke. His hand was steady, but his thoughts were not. He remembered her voice again. "Even if it costs me everything, I cannot turn away." Those words haunted him. They were a mirror to his own hidden truth. Footsteps approached. He did not need to look to know it was her. His breath caught. His chest tightened. He wanted to tell her to leave, but when she stepped into the dim light, his strength failed. She looked at him with eyes that carried both fear and fire. "You should not be here," he said firmly. His voice was low, but it lacked the sharpness it should have carried. She stepped closer, her voice trembling but strong. "I cannot stay away." The silence between them felt heavier than any battlefield. His hand gripped the blade tightly. His jaw clenched. Inside him, two paths fought for control. One path told him to turn away, to save her from ruin. The other path told him to take her hand, to claim what both their hearts already knew. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the war inside himself. He remembered the weight of duty, the promise he had made to fight for what was right, but he also remembered the fire in her soul, the way she looked at him as if he was more than just a soldier, more than just human. She saw him not as a weapon, but as something greater. When he opened his eyes again, she was still there, waiting. Her breath shook, her hands trembled. Yet she did not leave. Her courage struck him harder than any blade. She had chosen him already. She had chosen despite the cost. His voice was rough when he spoke. "If we walk this path, there will be no return." He searched her eyes. "Your people will turn against you, and mine will never accept it." She lifted her chin, her voice soft but unyielding. "Then let them. I would rather stand in truth than live in chains." Her words pierced through his walls. He felt the weight of his choice pressing on him. He could walk away and protect her by distance. He could bury the fire inside and let her suffer alone. Or he could step forward, accept the forbidden bond, and face whatever storm came after. For a long moment, he said nothing. The night stretched on, filled with silence and tension. Finally, he moved. He set his blade aside. He reached for her hand. His touch was gentle, but it carried the strength she craved. Her breath caught as his fingers wrapped around hers. In that touch, he made his choice. He would not walk away. He would not abandon what had already begun between them. If the world called it forbidden, then let the world burn for her for the fire at her heart. He would face it all. Her eyes shone with light. Her lips trembled with words she could not speak, but she did not need to. His choice was clear, and though danger waited, though betrayal and punishment would surely follow, neither of them cared. The human had chosen, and with that choice, their fates were bound together. The bond between them was no longer hidden in her heart. It lived in her eyes, in her steps, in the way her breath caught whenever he was near. She tried to mask it, but secrets carry their own weight, and secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, begin to leak into the world. Her people noticed first. Warriors who fought beside her whispered of her distraction. Elders frowned when she returned late from patrols. Shadows of suspicion followed her like hunters. And though no one spoke openly, she could feel the truth pressing closer every day. The human knew it too. He saw the danger growing. He felt the eyes that lingered when she stood too near him. He told her to stay away, to protect herself. But each time he spoke the words, his own heart betrayed him. His own eyes burned with the same forbidden fire. One night, the air in the camp felt different. The whispers were sharper, the stares longer. She knew something had shifted. She overheard two elders speaking in hushed voices. Her loyalty wavers. One said, "She has been touched by the human." The other replied coldly, "If it is true, she will betray us all." The words cut into her like blades. Her body shook with fear and rage. But she forced herself to stay silent. She could not reveal the truth. Not yet. Not while the danger loomed so near. When she met him again, hidden in the ruins beyond the camp, her voice trembled. "They suspect me," she whispered. Her hands shook as she clutched his arm. "If they find out, they will end me." His jaw tightened. His eyes grew dark with resolve. "Then leave this behind. Walk away before it is too late." His voice was steady, but she felt the storm inside him. He wanted her safe, but he did not want her gone. Tears burned in her eyes. "I cannot walk away," she said. "You know I cannot." Her voice cracked with truth. Her desire for him was stronger than her fear, stronger than the threat of exile. She would not let go, not even if her people turned against her. The risk of betrayal grew heavier with each passing day. Some nights she thought she saw shadows following her. Warriors who lingered just a little too long. Elders whose gazes pierced her like blades. The camp no longer felt like home. It felt like a cage closing around her. And still, she returned to him. Every secret meeting burned brighter than the last. Their words grew deeper, their silences heavier. The bond that tied them together was no longer fragile. It was steel forged in fire. But danger was not only inside her clan. Beyond the valley, enemies prepared their strike. Betrayal did not just lurk in whispers. It moved with sharpened blades. And when the attack came, it was sudden and merciless. The night exploded with fire. Screams tore through the camp as enemy soldiers rushed in. Blades clashed. Arrows burned through the sky. She fought fiercely, her spear cutting down enemy after enemy. Yet even in the chaos, her eyes searched for him. And she found him, standing like a wall of steel, his roar breaking through the battle. His strength pulled her toward him. She fought beside him, their movements flowing as if guided by the same spirit. Each strike she made, he guarded. Each strike he made, she followed. Together, they were unbreakable. But fighting beside him came at a price. Her people saw. Warriors gasped as they noticed her back turned to guard his. Elders froze in shock as her body leaned into his protection. In that moment, the whispers became truth. Her secret was no longer hidden. When the battle ended, smoke rose into the night. Victory had been won, but at a cost. Her people's eyes burned with questions. Their silence was louder than any cry. She felt it pressing down on her. The truth was out. The risk of betrayal had turned into reality. She looked at him, breathless, trembling. His eyes met hers, steady and strong. And in that gaze, she understood. Whatever storm was coming, they would face it together. The betrayal was no longer a risk. It was a certainty, and it was only a matter of time before the judgment came. The battle was over, but the silence that followed was heavier than war itself. Smoke clung to the air. The dead lay scattered across the valley, and the survivors stood in broken lines. Her people's eyes burned with judgment. Their whispers cut into her like knives. No words were needed. They had seen the truth. She had fought beside the human. She had guarded his life as if it was her own. She felt the weight of every gaze. Elders stood like stone, their faces carved with fury and disappointment. Warriors muttered words of betrayal. And yet, despite their anger, her heart did not falter. She had chosen, and her choice stood before her, alive and unbroken. The human watched it all with steady eyes. His hand gripped his weapon, not against the enemy, but against the storm within her people. He could see the danger rising around her, the hatred boiling to the surface. He knew they would turn on her, maybe on both of them. His voice was low, filled with quiet resolve. They will not forgive this. She stepped closer to him, her chest trembling with both fear and defiance. Then let them hate me, she whispered, her eyes shone with fire. I will not deny what I feel. The crowd grew restless, voices rising like thunder. Some shouted for her exile. Others demanded her death. The word traitor carried through the smoke, sharp and cruel. Her heart raced, but her body did not move away from him. If anything, she stepped closer, her shoulder brushing his. Her people could call her what they wished, but they could not break the truth inside her. The human raised his weapon slowly, his eyes locked on the crowd, his voice steady. If you touch her, you go through me. The words fell heavy. Each warrior froze. Elders exchanged sharp glances. They had expected weakness, but they saw a wall of strength instead. For a moment, no one moved. The valley held its breath. The only sound was the crackle of fire and the beating of her heart. Then one elder stepped forward, his voice filled with rage. She has betrayed her blood. She has chosen a human over her people. His hand lifted, pointing toward her like a blade. She is no longer one of us. Her chest ached. The words cut deeper than steel. Yet before sorrow could take her, the human's voice rose again. She has chosen truth. His words echoed across the silence. His eyes swept the crowd. If you call that betrayal, then I stand with her. Let your judgment fall on both of us." Gasps filled the air. Her people had never seen such defiance, never heard such words from a human's mouth. For a heartbeat, time seemed to stop. Then the enemies struck again. Hidden forces that had waited in the shadows rushed the valley. Arrows rained down. Blades flashed. The chaos returned. Blood and fire swallowed judgment and whispers alike. In the storm, she and the human fought together once more. Side by side, they moved as one. His blade cut down enemies before they reached her. Her spear guarded his back like a shield. They were no longer two separate warriors. They were one, bound by choice, by desire, by fire that no law could extinguish. When the last enemy fell, when silence finally returned, she collapsed against him. Her body trembled, her breath ragged. His arms caught her, strong and steady, holding her against his chest. In that embrace, all the whispers, all the judgment, all the danger faded for one moment. There was only them. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Even if the world turns against us, I will not let go." His hand brushed her hair gently, his voice low, unshakable. "Then we face it together." The valley still burned, her people still glared, and the future promised nothing but struggle. Yet none of it mattered. Their forbidden desire had already become truth. Their bond had been sealed in fire and blood. She craved the human strength again, and now, in his arms, she knew she would never be without it. No matter the cost, no matter the storm, she had found her truth. And together, they would face whatever came.